What is up, beautiful people? Welcome on in, guys. Myself, Mr. Bryson Owens. We are talking the Buffalo Bills 2025 record predictions. The only show we've done so far is the San Francisco 49ers. If you didn't catch that show, you can find it on our Twitter page, but probably easier to find it on our YouTube channel at The Sports Forum. Do us a favor, click that subscribe button, drop a like on the video, drop a comment, let us know how you're feeling, and go enjoy that one. But show number 2, we got the Buffalo Bills on tap here, my man. Josh Allen and the guys, kind of like Lamar Jackson, looking to get over that hump. But before we get to the playoffs, you got to get through the regular season, and that's what we're talking about here. So taking a very quick look here at the schedule, you see weeks 1 through 5, Baltimore, Jets, Miami, New Orleans, and New England. Kicking things off here at home against the Baltimore Ravens, 8:20 p.m. Sunday Night Football to kick things off on NBC. My man, how are we feeling about week 1?
Week 1's really interesting because it's two of the best teams in football. Obviously, it's a rematch of last year's playoff game where it came down to the wire, and obviously the Bills were able to move on and go to the AFC Championship game because of the Mark Andrews drop and the Ravens' slow start to that game and all these kinds of reasons. And you have these two teams who are both, like you mentioned, regular season powerhouses. Like, these are two of the best teams in the regular season in the league. But they always come up short in the playoffs. Now it's week 1, and I do think this is when you look at the overview of the Bills' entire schedule, when you look at the teams they play, you're like, wow, this is a really tough schedule. But then you look at it, this Baltimore Ravens game is in Buffalo. That helps them out a lot. Getting them week 1 in your building is a huge draw for Buffalo. It gives them the Bills are a team that relies so heavily on the top end talent. They don't have a lot of depth, especially in the areas they're really weak, like corner, wide receiver, edge. They don't have a lot of depth there. So going into week 1 against the Ravens at home, when your guys are fully healthy, that's about as good of a draw you could have asked for if you're the Buffalo Bills. So I'm going to give the Bills a win. Baltimore is also very noticeably slow starting. They tend to start seasons 1 and 2, 2 and 3. Like, they don't start seasons off very well. Buffalo tends to come out real hot, especially when their first game's at home on the year. So I'm going to go with Buffalo in this one. It's a tough week 1 draw, but being in Buffalo is a big, big boost for the Bills.
Josh Allen just getting married, got to show off to the wifey, could be kind of stunting on him, trying to get that MVP pace started early here once again. Could be happening. We saw the Ravens game last year. Game 1 came down to a toe. Will it come down to a toe again? It very well could at this point, my man. So we'll see what happens. But I'm struggling here to fade the Baltimore Ravens. I just feel like, you and I on draft night, right? You and I are on draft night. We're watching that draft, and we were like, man, they sleepily are killing this draft. Round 1 was great. 2, 3, 4. I love the defensive pieces that they added. I thought they added some nice offensive talent there in those later rounds. So I like Baltimore right now. King Henry obviously continuing to make his money, looking good. Going to be as healthy as they come in week 1. Lamar Jackson healthy in week 1. It's just a tough one to call, but I think I agree with you here. I have to go with the home team, and I'm not going to fade Josh Allen in his own building week 1 against Lamar Jackson. I just can't do it. I just hope that Buffalo defense is back to some of the better Buffalo defenses, because they could get exposed here. And I don't really think it's going to come down to Buffalo's defense falling apart or Baltimore's defense. If anything, it'll be Lamar Jackson just not being able to get it done, early turnovers to start the year off and things like that. So probably a game-winning field goal either way. No more Justin Tucker, though, so that just made it more interesting. If it comes down to a kicker, I'm taking the Pirate. Give me Tyler Bass anytime here. I'm going to go Buffalo as well, 1-0 to kick things off. Then they go on the road there, Justin Fields and company. Bright and early game here, early afternoon with all the others. Sunday, September 14th, first road game of the year. Do they walk into New York and get a win here? Or could this be one of those times that they go up against a tough crowd potentially? Their fans should travel well. Is this 2-0 easily, or could this be kind of a scary game this early in the year?
I think it's going to be a mix of both. I do think Buffalo wins this game, but Buffalo, for whatever reason, in New York, loves to make these games way closer than they ever should be. I think if you remember correctly, 2 years ago, week 1, it was the Aaron Rodgers' first game of his Jets career, and he tears his Achilles first drive of the season for the Jets, and Zach Wilson came in and won the game for them. Like the Jets won the game with Zach Wilson, beat the Buffalo Bills, and people were in shock. Like the Bills, for whatever reason, especially in New York, love to make themselves look way worse than they actually are. So I don't know why that is. I don't know why they go into games like this. And they've had other seasons where it's other teams. Like a couple of years ago, it was in Miami. They went in and they looked awful against the Dolphins, and they lost.
They struggle in Miami. Yeah.
For whatever reason, that heat down in Miami makes them struggle, I guess. I'm not sure. So early road games against teams that you'd think Buffalo walks all over is always a closer game than you think. Like I would guess, especially if they win week 1, the line on this game will be something like Bills minus 8.5 or something.
I was going to say 9.5. Yep.
Something in that area, right? And then it ends up being Bills win by 3 points. And you're like, that game shouldn't have been as close. I
agree.
So I'm going to give the Bills a win. I don't think they walk all over the Jets, but I do think they get the win.
I'm there with you, and you're thinking coming off of Baltimore, if anything, like you just mentioned, it's more of a spread thing that's going to scare me. If you beat Baltimore, if Justin Fields and the Jets struggle week 1, you got a 1-0 team coming off the Ravens now up against the Justin Fields 0-1 team. I agree with you. This spread's probably going to be really drawn out for what it really should be. It'd be hard to lay more than a touchdown, but I think you and I are both in agreement. They should beat them by 17 plus. I mean, it shouldn't be a game. It's just about, will it be a game? I got to be honest, as much as I agree with you based on trends, I don't think it's going to be close. I like Justin Fields a lot more than you do, but this is just a tough game. I think the Jets are good for maybe 20 points. That's still too many, but the Bills should drop 27 plus here. I don't think it should be relatively that close. I'm going to go like 27-17 Buffalo. Give me 2-0 here as well on the back of Mr. Josh Allen. But then pulling that schedule back up here for you guys, a pretty interesting week 3 here. You got to wonder, will things start to turn here against Miami? Tua should be coming in healthy, Bryson, on Thursday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. on Prime Video. Concert after the game. Make sure you guys tune in for that concert, as always. But they are at home here against Miami. Now, you and I just talked about how they struggle sometimes in Miami, but they're not in Miami. Yep. So at this point, you've played at home. You've gone just a tiny little trip there to the Jets, and now you're right back home against the Dolphins. I don't think there's a lot of travel here. Is this 3-0, or could the arm of Tua punish them here?
I do think this is actually kind of a nice draw for the Dolphins, because every year it feels like the Dolphins go into Buffalo late in the season, and it's traditionally in Buffalo, cold, snowy. And as everyone knows, the Dolphins are horrendous. Tua is horrendous whenever it's temperature below 50 out. Now, it's still Buffalo in September, so it could still be cold. You never know what the weather's going to be like when you're looking at it from now. But I do think this is sneakily a good draw for Miami to get Buffalo in Buffalo earlier this year than normal. Still, even despite that, and despite it's probably going to be the healthiest the Dolphins are all year. That Dolphins team, it scares me how bad they could be. Like that defense in Miami, it's trending, in my opinion, to maybe being one of the worst in the AFC. Like they're going to be
right in front of the Bengals.
Oof, they're going to be competing with that area. That's not the area you want to compete with. The O-line for Miami, just as bad. Like I am scared for this Dolphins team having one of the worst seasons in the NFL. And with that, I do think Buffalo gets a 3-0 start. I don't think this is going to be a very competitive football game.
Okay. This is a tough one for me because the way you said that they kind of struggle sometimes against the Jets, they do struggle sometimes against the Dolphins. But at this point, like we just mentioned, at this point, you've seen a Ravens team with Lamar Jackson. I think everyone would agree that's more dangerous than what Tua is going to have. We don't know the status of Tyreek Hill right now. Is he even going to be a Dolphin by the time the year starts? Is he going to be in prison? I don't know. So we'll see where he's at. You take him off the field. Look, Jalen Waddle, absolute dog. Jalen Waddle is not going to pick apart the Buffalo defense by himself. It's just not going to happen. So
Yeah.
they need some help there. I agree with you. I think the run game for the first time in the past 3 or 4 years is actually not going to be very good in Miami. They're going to have moments, but you talked about the O-line. They didn't do themselves any favor in the offseason to try to improve that. I'm not seeing the hype behind the Dolphins here. As always, people are kind of hyping them up, kind of like the Bears last year. Oh, they're going to win 8, 9, 10 games. They're going to be in contention. I don't know about that. I don't really think they are. Now, if they beat Buffalo week 3, maybe I'm surprised. But Tua's turnover problem, I don't think it's going to work out here. I think the Buffalo pass rush also got a little bit better. If there's one thing Tua doesn't like nowadays, it's a good pass rush. So go ahead and give me the 3-0 as well. I am right. Yeah.
I will say just the only thing I can see Miami maybe sneaking past Buffalo in this matchup is the explosive passing game downfield. Like if Tyreek Hill is a Dolphin next year and Jalen Waddle's healthy and Tua's healthy going into that game, Buffalo's pass defense was really bad last year. They gave up the 9th most yards in the NFL. They gave up the 8th most touchdowns in the NFL through the air. So if Miami's passing game can be on point and Tua's hitting Tyreek downfield and he's hitting Waddle and letting Waddle do his thing, if he's getting Jonnu Smith involved, like I can see Miami maybe if it becomes a shootout having a chance. Like if that's the only way Miami's going to win this game. They can't win a game 23-20. Like that's not how Miami's going to win football games this year. They have to win like it's got to be 31-27 and Tua's dicing up the secondary for Buffalo.
400 no picks.
Yeah, exactly. Like Tua's got to be on point. Like that's the one thing I can maybe see happening just because Mike McDaniel is traditionally early in the season a good play caller. The Dolphins offense traditionally early in the year is really explosive and hits plays downfield. And this Buffalo secondary is really, really scary to me. Like it's not a very good secondary in my opinion. So that's the one thing I can maybe see Miami taking advantage of, but I still think Buffalo is a good enough team to, even if it does become a shootout, you have the reigning MVP on your side. So I think they should be even able to survive shootouts in this situation.
And like you said, they were susceptible to the pass, especially across the middle. And it was bad. I mean, I remember how many 3rd and 16, 3rd and 18, it felt like, are we going to act like you didn't know where they were going? They were going 22 yards across the middle. Like it was so clear. So I agree with you. If Tua's on, sure. But my thing is, and you kind of mentioned it, even if it turns into a shootout, I'm taking Josh Allen every time because even if they score and go shot for shot for shot for shot, how are they going to stop Josh Allen? I'm not seeing that. So I agree with you. Could it be something where last person to touch the ball drives down the field, gets the win? Sure. But this should be another win for the Buffalo Bills. 3-0 for me. 3-0 for you?
Yep.
Okay. Here we go, folks. Pulling up week number 4. We got my favorite team in the NFL, the New Orleans Saints at home here, 1:00 p.m., bright and early on CBS. At this point, is it going to be Spencer Rattler? Is it going to be Tyler Shuck? I don't know. It should be Shedeur Sanders, but people are stupid, Bryson. And when you're stupid, you get stupid prizes. And you know what the prize in this one is? 4-0 for the Buffalo Bills and a big OL for the New Orleans Saints. I get that the Saints have the defense to hang with everybody. No, they don't, because 16 points is not going to win you this football game. I don't think it's going to matter here. If at this point we're seeing Josh Allen playing the best football possible, the only way I see this being bad for Buffalo is if magically Josh finally has a bad game. Could that happen? Yes. It's almost more scary if they're 3-0 at the time that they go into this game. Because if they're coming off a loss to the Dolphins, you can just say, thank you very much, put the win in. That's a win. Move on to the next week. It's going to happen. But I'm going to go 4-0 here. The New Orleans Saints, to me, Bryson, are a bottom 5 football team this year. This, to me, honestly, this might be the easiest game to call yet.
Yeah, I agree. There's not much to talk about with this game. This is going to be one of those games where, you have those dominant football teams who early on in the year, you're looking for that one big win where they win by like 3+ touchdowns. And you're like, oh yeah, that's how good this team can be at their very best. This is going to be that game for Buffalo. They're going to win this game like 37-10 to 10
Mm,
or something
mm.
crazy like that. Like, it's not going to be
I like it.
competitive from start to finish. Like, we're probably going to see in this game backup quarterbacks in. We're going to see guys not playing full games. Like, it's going to be an ugly one, in my opinion. That, like you said, the Saints are going to be one of those teams competing for the number 1 overall pick this year. Buffalo's competing for a Super Bowl. This is going to be that one win. It's in Buffalo too, which that doesn't help the Saints at all. Like, that's the one thing that might have given the Saints a little bit of help if it was in New Orleans, but it's in Buffalo. So you get a bad team in one of the most hostile environments in the sport. Like,
There's no way.
This is a recipe for disaster for New Orleans. Like, this is going to be a curb stomp.
Yes, this should be awesome for parlay bettors, and that's about it. Now, I will say, you mentioned the backups. This has backdoor cover written all over it. This has like Buffalo's up by 21 at halftime. Everyone's like, it's over. I cashed my minus 11.5, and magically, the Saints come back and lose by 10. But this is a double-digit football game. I don't care how you cut the cake. I'm not going to overthink it. We're going to go 4-0 here for the Buffalo Bills. Bryson, when is the L going to enter the chat? Well, now here we are. You and I, compared to most people, I would say, have been higher on Drake May and what's developing in New England than a lot of other people have. A lot of people from the narratives I'm seeing are still, Drake May ain't that dude, and the Patriots are horrible and whatever. Now, the Patriots have had the least amount of weapons in the NFL, in my opinion, last year at all. I mean, they had nobody. They made a couple good adjustments, made some nice additions there in the draft, made a couple other offseason free agency moves. Are they a good team? Maybe not. But what I saw Drake May do with a less than ideal squad gave me confidence that this kid, another offseason, another year getting bigger, a couple more weapons, more time with this team. I think New England's going to shock some people. I don't know what their win total is. It might be like 6.5 or something like that. I might look towards the over here if it's in my favor. But for me, I'm going to make you answer this one first. This is the Sunday night football game. Once again, though, it is in Buffalo. Shouldn't be a problem for New England per se, but you still got to go on the road. You mentioned the hostile environment on NBC. 5-0, 4-1.
This one's really tough because I am actually really interested in this Patriots team. I think they're going to be one of those teams where you're going to get to the last week of the season and New England's sitting with like 8 or 9 wins. And they're going to be one of those teams where like, yeah, the Patriots could get that last wild card spot if they win and this team loses and this team loses. Like, I think that's going to be where the Patriots are by the end of the season. You mentioned a lot of the roster moves they made, which I was a big fan of, especially in the draft. I thought they killed the draft, but they also made really good coaching changes. I know you're not the biggest Mike Vrabel guy, but going from Gerard Mayo to Mike Vrabel is a massive improvement. It's like going from, as a Broncos fan, going from Nathaniel Hackett to Sean Payton. Like, it's night and day difference in the coaching department, in my opinion, for New England. I think they're going to be more buttoned up. I think they're going to be more ready come game time every week. With all of that said, I'm probably a year away from really being able to compete in these type of games. You mentioned in Buffalo, primetime football. Like, I think New England is just a year away from really being able to push the Bills in their stadium. So I'm going to give Buffalo a win. I think it's going to be close. I think it's a one-score game. I think Drake May is going to give Josh Allen everything he has, and it's going to be one of those where this could be like a coming out party for Drake May, even if it's in a loss, where it's like Drake against a good Bills team, like, but it was in a loss. So I'm going to give Buffalo the win. I think it's going to be a close game, though.
I'm going to spice shit up a little bit. Give me the Patriots to get this thing done. And you know what? I'm calling my score here. 23-20. New England Patriots win this football game right here. This has a Drake May masterclass with a struggling Josh Allen game written all over it. The New England Patriots have the defense. That's the one thing they had last year that even kept them in half of those games. Towards the end of the year, Drake May starts to wake up, and you're like, whoa, these guys might be a decent football team. The defense is not the problem. I do believe they can keep Josh Allen at that 20 to 23 point threshold. And if they can do that, They're in this football game. I don't care what you say. Drake May has the arm talent to go deep and burn that defense. He can definitely pick them apart across the middle. I like the tight ends that they got going on right now in New England. I think the O-line looks pretty decent. The pass rush looks pretty darn good. This is a way more competitive football game than people are giving it credit for. I have them at 4-0. The whole world, Bryson, I already see the betting market. What's that? 92% of the money's on the Buffalo Bills? Yeah, give me the 8%. I want New England here on the money line in this game. You know, I'll take the points as well when the time comes, but I got to shake it up eventually. Spoiler alert, I don't know when they're going to lose another game, so I'm going to say they're going to lose right here. Yeah. Week 5 is the first loss for me. I'm going 4-1. Patriots are the one that deliver the first blow here. Bryson 5-0 at this point. Now, you go from Sunday Night Football and you're finally, what a breeze it was for the first 5 weeks, but now you're on the road. Monday Night Football, Atlanta Falcons, no Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix Jr. taking the reins here in Atlanta. Bryson, I think it's only right I let you speak first because you know what I'm going to say. I think you know what I'm going to say. So please, what you got here?
So you were asking when the Bills' first loss of the season is. For me, I think it's going to be this game. You go from what I think will be a really competitive, close division rival game at home. So now you have to travel on the road. You go to Atlanta for this game against the Falcons team, who I think is going to be pretty good. I think the Falcons are going to be pretty darn good this year. I like Michael Penix Jr. I don't know how great he's going to be, but I think he's going to be an improvement over Kirk Cousins. And
he'll be getting hot in week 6.
Yeah, I think he's an improvement over Kirk Cousins. And they were winning football games with Kirk Cousins early last year. Like, they were competitive with Kirk before he got a little bit more banged up and he had a couple turnover games. Yeah. The Falcons weren't bad for the first handful of games last year, and then Kirk Cousins fell apart. And you could tell instantly when Michael Penix took the field that even if Michael Penix's numbers weren't that great, but you could tell the team just felt different with him in the game. You could tell that the passing game was a little bit more sharp and had a little bit more explosiveness downfield. I love the weapons in Atlanta. When you talk about Drake London, you talk about Bijan Robinson. Like, I think they might have one of the better offensive skill sets in the NFL. And if Michael Penix Jr. can take advantage of that against, I already mentioned, a weak Bills secondary, like, I think that could be one. And again, you go from tough division matchup at home, on the road against an NFC team you don't see very often, and then the next week is your bye week. I think they could just be overlooking Atlanta and not take this game as seriously as they should. So I'm going to give my first loss for the Bills in Atlanta. I think that's going to be one of their weird ones where you're like, the Bills are 5.5, 6-point favorites, whatever, and the Falcons take that upset.
On either team here, and maybe you're saying it's Michael Penix Jr., whether it's a Bills player costing them this game or a Falcons player winning them this game, who is the X factor in this game that pushes Atlanta towards that win?
I think the X factor is going to be maybe not a specific player, but it's going to be a defensive group, and it's going to be that secondary for the Bills. I think that the Falcons are going to be way more explosive in the passing game. Like, Kirk Cousins couldn't throw the ball deep downfield. They had no deep passing game. He could eat up the first, like, within 5 to 10-ish yards, but they had nothing deep downfield. And I think that's going to be where you're going to see a big difference with the Falcons this year is they're going to be able to push the ball. And that's going to be something that bites Buffalo in the ass in this game. Like, Michael Penix Jr., and he's not going to be afraid. Like, Michael Penix Jr. doesn't care. He'll take his shots downfield. He won't care if it's a pick. He won't care if it's a touchdown.
He better care a little.
So I think that's going to be the X factor in this game is if that secondary for Buffalo can handle the marketably improved deep passing game for Atlanta.
Okay. I'm going to say it's Bijan. I think that this is one of those games where I think as a Bills fan, you might be pulling your hair because it's going to be 3rd and 6, run it up the middle, first down. 3rd and 2, first down. 4th and goal, touchdown. It's going to be one of those, what in the world is he going to break out? I think he breaks out at least once. Is it 80 yards? I don't know, but is it 35, 40 yards? I could see it happening once, maybe twice in this game here. I think Bijan could make this very interesting between Michael Penix running, Bijan running. That's already scary enough. You add the wide receiver weapons here. This is a scary Atlanta team. Now, as I kind of noted towards, I'm not a big Falcons guy, but I do think a lot of that was because you know how much I gave Kirk Cousins a lot of shit last year before the year even started. And so I kind of just immediately was off of Atlanta. I was like, this team's not good. They're completely overhyped. I will bet against them before I bet on them every single game. Not a problem. But in this game here, I do think it's competitive, but I have them losing a close game to New England. And yes, whether they win or lose that game, I still think it's a tough kind of bounce back Sunday Night Football. Yeah, you get the extra day technically because it's a Monday, but not really if you think about it because you're playing Sunday night. So whatever, no matter how you want to chop it up. But this to me is a Buffalo Bills win. I think it's a very close game. But if I had to say one team blow the other team out, I think it's the Bills blowing out Atlanta. Sure. So for that reason, I just lean that way. If it's close, I go Bills. If it's a blowout, I go Bills. I'm just going to say Josh Allen kind of classes them up through the air. I think they made a couple of defensive mistakes. Shouldn't have let a couple guys go in the secondary, but who am I? What do I know about football? So we'll find out here. Atlanta, they are going to win their fair share. They are going to compete for a playoff spot. I just don't think that they beat the Buffalo Bills week 5 here in this spot. So at this point, or sorry, week 6 here in this spot. So at this point, we are both 5-1, correct?
Yep.
All right, my man. Like you said, bye week in week number 7. And then there's a team that you just don't know, Bryson. You got Sunday, regular old game here in the afternoon, bright and early against the Carolina Panthers on the road again, but coming off a bye. So honestly, it doesn't really matter. Here you are. At this point, we can say it's Bryce Young, but with that coaching staff, who knows? Yeah. Maybe by this point, it's completely somebody different, but assuming it's Bryce Young in this spot, coming off a bye, do they get caught sleeping or is this a beatdown?
So I think this is going to be one of my favorite games to bet on the underdog for the spread, not for the win. I do think Buffalo gets this job done. I think it's going to be one of those ugly wins where if you're a Bills fan, you don't feel good about winning the game. It's going to be one of those where maybe the defense isn't as focused as they should be. Maybe Josh Allen throws a dumb interception. And you're like, Josh, that you shouldn't do that. It's on the road at Carolina. Again, a team you don't face very often, in an environment you don't go to very often. Buffalo does tend to have these dumb road games where just Josh Allen decides he's going to complete like 30% of his passes. Like he had that game against Houston last year where just randomly Josh Allen completed like 25% of his passes. It was the weirdest game I've ever seen Josh Allen play.
Down there somewhere, Bryson.
Yeah, it was the weirdest game. You could have another one like that with Carolina. The biggest reason I like the Panthers to at least compete in this game isn't so much Carolina. You know how much I was like impressed by Bryce Young kind of being good in the second half of the year because you know I wasn't a Bryce Young guy going into last year. And Bryce looked good. I think Bryce is going to have a good year this year for Carolina. Is it going to be enough to keep his job long term? I don't know. We can have that conversation when we talk about the Panthers specifically. But I think it's going to be because you look at the next game on their schedule, it's the Kansas City Chiefs coming into Buffalo. And I think the Bills are just going to kind of overlook Carolina. They're going to be like, well, we don't need to try against Carolina. So they're going to spend most of their bye week game planning for Kansas City. I don't think they're going to be game planning for Carolina during their bye week. So it's going to be one of those games where Buffalo wins, but if you're a Bills fan, you're like, that was the dumbest win on our schedule. Like we should have beaten Carolina by 2 touchdowns and we won by 5 points. You know, it's going to be one of those kind of wins.
I'm right there with you. And if you and I are both correct that they're 5-1 at this point, maybe Carolina has 2 wins.
Yeah.
Maybe they have 2 wins. Somewhere around there, right? Maybe 1, maybe 3, whatever, but they're probably not positive by this point. Maybe 3 and like, I don't know when their bye week is. So maybe 3-3, 3-4. At that point, but that's kind of best case scenario. I do agree with you though. You know, I love me a dog that everyone fades, and I'm with you on the points. I don't know if it's going to be 8.5, 11.5. I sure hope it's 11.5, but Carolina kind of was a cover machine at that 8.5, 9-point spread last year. And I'm kind of there with you again here. If we're both correct, this could be a close game. It is in Carolina. Could Carolina come out first, go up 7-0, 10-0, and hold on for a cover? Maybe, but are they going to win this game? I can't get there either. It's just not going to happen. I don't really need to explain why. It's the Carolina Panthers. It's Bryce Young. It's Josh Allen. Bills are going to win the game. So anyway, 6-1 for both of us. You mentioned it though, not a night game on Sunday here in week number 9, but that mid-afternoon kind of game with the 3 or 4 games in the slot there against the Kansas City Chiefs at home. A big time game for Buffalo. You need a big win here. And according to us, you've already beat the Baltimore Ravens, and God forbid you lost to the Ravens. You have to win this football game, in my opinion. Is this a win, or does Patrick Mahomes do what Patrick Mahomes does? And this is somehow a roughing the passer on 4th and 12 for the Chiefs, and they win on a field goal.
This is going to be a really interesting game because it's in Buffalo. So that gives it feels like every year Buffalo gets Kansas City at home in the regular season, but they always have to go on the road in the playoffs. And I feel like if you're Buffalo, you would rather switch that. I think you would rather play Kansas City in Kansas City in the regular season, and you'd rather have them coming to your home stadium in the playoffs. Now it hasn't mattered. They've played Kansas City on both stadiums in the playoffs, and they've lost every time. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
13
but
seconds.
Interestingly, the Bills they beat Kansas City pretty consistently in the regular season. Like, I think they've won at least the last 2, it might be the last 3 games in the regular season against the Chiefs. So they do play them really well then. I do want people to pay attention to the Chiefs this year, in that last year it was a lot of those, like you mentioned, kind of fluky wins in the regular season. A lot of wins where you're like, did Kansas City really earn those wins? Who knows? I think Kansas City is going to be a different football team this year. That offense already looks like it's going to be back to what it was when Patrick Mahomes was throwing for 50 touchdowns in a year. Like,
so you think a better team?
I think Kansas City's going to be better offensively than they were last year. Rashee Rice coming back, second year Xavier Worthy, young tight ends stepping into bigger roles. Like, I think this is going to be a Chiefs team that isn't winning games 21-18. I think they're going to go back to winning games, scoring 27 plus points per game. And because of that, again, I need to find losses on the schedule for the Bills, because I don't think they go 16-1. I don't think they go 15-2. I think they're going to go somewhere. I haven't guessed my win total yet for the Bills, but I think they're going to have somewhere around 4 or 5 losses on their schedule. So I'm going to give them a loss at Kansas City. I think them maybe not taking a couple weeks in a row seriously is going to bite them in the butt. I think Kansas City's offense is going to be better than it was last year. Defense for defense, I'm taking Kansas City's over Buffalo's. I know it's in Buffalo, but I think the Chiefs are going to show why they've gone to so many Super Bowls and so many AFC Championship games back-to-back in a row in this game. I think this is going to be a statement win for the Kansas City Chiefs.
You know, I still can't get over that time that Mahomes ran out there and said, man, it was bullshit, man. It's just bullshit, man, and kind of snubbed Josh. Like, it still pisses me off that happened. And then he beats Josh, and Josh shakes his hand and says, good game, man. Right? Yeah. And that's that. So there's this little piece of me that I think, like a lot of people, I don't want Kansas City to win this football game.
Sure.
However, kidding, folks, I'm taking the Buffalo Bills to win this game. I do believe them being at home here. You mentioned that they do tend to kind of beat them up in Buffalo, and I agree. They do tend to beat them up. And at the end of the day, if we both have them 6-1, we both have them at this point beating the Baltimore Ravens to kick things off to start the season. If you win this one, you're on the road to the first seed. I mean, it's in the sights now. You're doing well. You're playing well. Maybe you lose to the Falcons. Maybe you lost to the Patriots, but you are playing phenomenal football at this point. And as long as you don't collapse at the end of the season, shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ooh, I had to do it one time. You'll be just fine. So for me personally, I do think it's a win here. It's only a matter of time. If you ask me right now, and I know I'm crazy for saying this, if I can have Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, I want Josh Allen. I prefer Josh Allen as a quarterback. as long as he's taking care of the football, which if you recall, he went from having the most turnovers to damn near the least amount of turnovers for how much he threw the football last year. The guy's taking care of the football again. He just got married. He's feeling good. He came up last year. Mahomes, I know that they're on a revenge tour because they got spanked in the Super Bowl and got embarrassed. Fine. But you did say it. Yes, they have some second-year talent. Yes, they have some up-and-coming young tight ends. But until I see Travis Kelce back to Travis Kelce and not last year Travis Kelce, if he looks a year older than he looked last year, he's useless. So,
Sure.
And if anyone knows how to cover him at this point, it is the Buffalo secondary. They've seen him a billion times. I don't know how you let the guy go for 2 touchdowns and 86 yards again. So I think it's a close one. You talked about shootout earlier with the Dolphins. If Josh can keep this a shootout and he doesn't allow Mahomes to get more than a touchdown lead at any point, they'll be okay here. If they lose this game, it's not because of Josh Allen. It's because of the defense. Mahomes puts on a masterclass. Fine. But I think it's a close one throughout. I would go with the home team here. I'm going to go Buffalo Bills. So at this point, coming in, I am 7-1? You're 6-2?
Yep.
All right, guys, moving on down the chain here, pretty much into the full second half of the schedule, as you can see. Now, They are back against the Dolphins, but this time, my man, they are on the road in Miami. Now, it is a 1:00 p.m. Eastern game. Should be nice and sunny. It's still November 9th. It's not too cold out there, so I wouldn't say any advantage at this point for the Buffalo Bills, even though it's a November game. Is this redemption here for the Dolphins?
I don't think so. I think this is going to be a win for Buffalo, especially because I have them coming off a loss against Kansas City, so I think they're going to take the next week extremely serious. And I mentioned earlier, I don't think Miami's going to be very good. I think they're going to be a 5 or 6 win football team. I think at this point, I think we would have been past the trade deadline at this point in the season. So I think you see maybe Tyreek Hill's gone. Maybe you see guys like Bradley Chubb gone. I think the Dolphins are going to look very different by week 10 than they did in week 3. I think it's going to be a very different Miami team. I think at that point they're going full on, we're not trying to win football games mode. I think you may have a little bit of an upset spot just in that Buffalo comes off that really emotional, high-stakes game against Kansas City. They go to Miami against Dolphins team who they could be like a 3-win football team at this point. Maybe they sleepwalk through that one as well. They have a tough part of their schedule coming up after that, so maybe they just, again, overlook Miami. Buffalo does tend to overlook 2 or 3 teams a year on their schedule. That could be a spot here. But because I have them losing against Kansas City, I think they're going to take the next week at Miami, a division game, very seriously. So I have them winning the game in Miami.
See, I'm struggling here because I already said they're going to beat them in the first game. Then I said they're going to beat Kansas City. Then I said they're going to beat the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, and the Falcons. Like at some point, Are they going to crack? They are going to crack at some point. It's just not right now. I do believe that they're going to beat the Miami Dolphins here. It's week 10. Like you mentioned, I think this is 2 teams, completely different trajectories right now. You got a Buffalo Bills team that, according to my schedule and prediction, is in command. They are arguably, outside of the 49ers, I think the best record in the NFL. I think they're going to be at the point where as long as they handle business and don't do what you said and kind of sleepwalk through a couple teams, they'll be okay. Miami's going to fight in this game. This is going to be a close game, especially if Tyreek Hill is on the field here in this one. But if I have him taken down some of the teams I have him taken down, I can't say the Dolphins are going to get him here. Maybe it turns into a close game. I just think at this point, November, Buffalo starts playing their best football. Things are very serious for them. And like you mentioned, if they don't beat Kansas City, it's even more of a reason to take them in this game. So I like them here in this one as well. So for me, I'm going to move on through here to 8-1. Bryson 7-2 at this point. Now, Bryson, we have a shootout on our hands. Yeah. This one kind of squeezed in here, as you guys see on the schedule. They are at Miami, home against Tampa, at Houston, at Pittsburgh. If you ask me, you got to find a way to win this football game right here. Now, you got Tampa at home, Baker Mayfield coming into town. You and I both extremely high on this offense for Tampa Bay. Their defense continue to be sleepily really, really good. Don't sleep on them at all. Could this be a win here for Baker, or is going on the road in this case going to cost them as the game goes on?
Going on being in Buffalo, especially by mid-September or mid-November, is going to be a really interesting one because I think Tampa Bay's strength this season, while Bucky Irving and Rachaad White are an excellent running back duo, I think they're going to be very, very good for the Bucs all year. The strength of this Bucs team is going to be in that passing game. Like they may have sneakily the best wide receiver unit in the NFL. I mean, you talk Mike Evans, who's basically a guaranteed 1,000-yard season. Chris Godwin coming back from an injury. He's phenomenal. They drafted Egbuka, who's phenomenal. They had McMillan, who came on really strong last season as a rookie. And they have two other wide receivers in Tez Johnson and Sterling Shepard, who are going to contribute in some way, I'm sure, in this passing game. Then you go Cade Otton at tight end. Like, I love the Bucs passing attack. The difficult part here is, again, mid-November in Buffalo, it's probably going to be cold. I don't know how well Tampa Bay is going to handle being in a cold environment. This might be their first real cold game of the season. So because of that, I'm going to give the win to the Bills because I don't know how the Bucs passing game is going to handle that cold weather. If it was in Tampa Bay, I'd give the win to the Bucs because I think that passing game would eat up this Bills secondary. I don't think this Bills secondary can handle this wide receiver unit for Tampa Bay. But because I think there's a good chance there'll be snow by then in November, because I think it'll be cold, I'm going to give the win to Buffalo. But that's a game where, like, if by the time that game rolls around and you look at the weather and it's like in the 70s and sunny out, you give Tampa Bay a real shot in that game. So I think the weather is a big factor in that one for me. I'm going to give it to Buffalo right now. I do also think Buffalo, if it becomes a shootout, I love Baker. I love that unit that they have in Tampa Bay, but Josh Allen is literally the reigning MVP. I can't not take Josh Allen in shootouts. You know what I mean? So I'm going to give the win to Buffalo.
Do you think it's fair to say, though, that Baker isn't the concern if it's cold? He can play in the cold.
I don't know if it's so much Baker as it is just the team itself being able to handle the I think they're going to be so pass heavy to start the season because of how many weapons Baker has. I don't know if the team and the schematics that they have going on will be able to flip the switch that quickly in a cold game.
Yeah, I'm struggling here because I think I've kind of put myself in a position where I have them beating every high-flying passing team. I have them beating Baltimore and Kansas City and Miami twice, and I'm just running out of time where I can say that eventually that defense just flat out gets exposed. I have to say it's here. And even though I do think Josh can respond with his own offensive power here, I just feel like this is going to be a 34-31, 38-34. It's going to feel like every time Josh does everything he can to get them back in this game, their defense is going to crumble in 6 plays. And so I just struggle here. I think Baker Mayfield handles business. I do think, though, a lot of people will be taking Buffalo at this point because they say November, Buffalo, Tampa is not going to play well there. Don't forget, guys, Tampa's not Miami, okay? The Dolphins don't swim in cold water, right? Or in ice water or snow, or whatever the hell the term is. But Baker Mayfield and Tampa have consistently played pretty well when playing in the cold compared to a lot of sunny teams. Yeah. Arizona, you know what I mean? Miami, some of those teams. So for me, I'm going to say this is a high-scoring game. Baker Mayfield's going to go on the road here. I think they get up really, really early here to the point where you're just like, what in the world are we doing? 17-0, Tampa gets a lead. I think Josh closes the door a little bit, but I'm going to go Tampa for a win here. I just can't continue to say that they're going to beat every single team. They didn't make that many good defensive adjustments this offseason to get to that point. So at this point, we're both 9-2?
Yes. No, 8-2.
8-2?
Yes, because we've gone through 11 weeks and 1 bye week, so 10 games.
8-2. Now here we are, Thursday Night Football, week number 12. Houston Texans on the road here, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Prime Video. Catch the concert as always. Hopefully it's good. That said, though, Texans, a lot of people expecting the bounce back this year. Last year, that wasn't it. CJ Stroud had so many trends upward. And then last year, it kind of seemed like it fell short. Yes, he had some injuries in his wide receiver room. Yes, the running back room, in my opinion, could have been a bit better. I'm not the world's biggest Mixon guy, but I thought he had a pretty darn good year there. Overall, in general, I feel like the running game is going to be better for Houston. I think the passing game is going to be better for Houston. The big question is the defense going to hold up? In your opinion, can they stop Josh Allen?
So you mentioned that you have them winning a lot of the big, high-flying shootout type of games. That's why you have them losing to Tampa Bay, because you can't see them winning all of them. That's part of my reasoning here for the Houston Texans beating the Buffalo Bills. Also, being in Houston gives the Texans a bit of an advantage there. I mentioned the game early last season where they went to Houston and Josh had that just weird game where he couldn't complete a single pass. Like, I think people forget, because of the offensive shortcomings this team had last year, Houston's defense is really good. They get to the quarterback well. They have one of the best corners in the NFL. And the Buffalo Bills do not have a wide receiver as of right now who you can just go, yeah, he's going to take over a football game. Like Keon Coleman, they're relying a lot on him taking a second-year leap. I don't think Khalil Shakir is that guy who just every week you game plan around as a defense. And if you're the Houston Texans and you have Derek Stingley Jr., do you just put Derek Stingley on, say, Keon Coleman and just tell the Bills, hey, Coleman is not going to do anything. Coleman's going to have 0 catches for 0 yards in this football game? Because I think that's a real possibility here. And then that Houston pass rush can get to every quarterback in the league. Like, it's a really good pass rush in Houston. I think you're going to see a bounce back year for CJ Stroud offensively. I think the wide receiver unit still very good. Nico Collins, one of the best receivers in football. You mentioned the run game being a little bit better. I like them adding Nick Chubb to this running back room with Joe Mixon. I think that's going to be a game where that stands out really well. So I'm going to give them a loss in Houston here. Again, I have to find some losses in this schedule for Buffalo. I think Houston on the road, really tough team to beat. So give me a Houston win.
First of all, Bryson, I don't know who's paying the Browns to fuck up everything that they ever did, but how do you let that guy walk?
Yeah.
I don't care. Well, he had some injuries. I don't give a damn. He was the best player on the team.
Yeah.
And what'd they get for him?
Nothing. They just let him
walk. Like, I don't understand, but anyway, whatever. It's a massive addition here for the Houston Texans. And like you said about the defense, even for how bad the offense was, they still played really well. Wait until they're getting some help there offensively. I'm with you here, man. I'm struggling because I don't tend to trust Houston in these games. I feel like they always compete in these games and they find a way to lose again and again and again. And it's just like, I don't know. But that said here, I do like the Houston Texans team. And I do think Josh Allen, even though, you'd say, oh, it's indoors. Yeah, but when you're used to playing every single game outdoor, all of a sudden you play indoors. And I don't know if it feels weird or there's just something up with it, but he does seem to struggle when you think he would just completely thrive in domes. So if you can't tell, I'm trying to convince myself to go Houston Texans here. I'm not confident in it, but I agree with you. I think the run game here, which, by the way, I didn't really mention this, but the run game is a big reason why I think the Bucs are going to beat them as well, is because I do think that eventually everyone's going to sell out to the pass. And then you mentioned Bucky Irving. Are we going to act like bro ain't a dog?
Yeah,
because come on now. Rashad White, I don't care. You can say whatever you want about Rashad White. Underrated running back. Like that duo themselves can give the Bills a piece of their mind. Then you add the wide receivers to it. I don't know what the whole people aren't talking about the Bucs making a big old deep run here. They're going to win their division at least. I also believe the Texans are going to be much better this year. So I'm right there with you. I'm going to go with a loss as well. Houston, steal one here. Thursday Night Football, week number 12. We are both at this point 8-2, I want to say. Or 9-2. 9-2.
I'm lost. I think we're 8-3.
Sorry. Yeah, there you go. 8-3 at this point. Okay, now fun time, mid-afternoon game, Sunday, November 30th, week 13 at the Pittsburgh Steelers, back-to-back road games and their third of 4 in a row on the road here.
Yeah.
But Bryson, we got Aaron Rodgers. Will he have an Achilles? We don't know. Will he be high? We don't know. But what we do know is it's going down in Pittsburgh. They have a lot of things working their way. No more Najee Harris, but they do have Jaylen Warren. They're feeling good about their additions at running back there. Sleeper pick, by the way, in the draft. A great pick there out of Iowa. But there's still question marks. They lose George Pickens. They bring in DK Metcalf. They get rid of Russell Wilson. They bring in Aaron Rodgers. Is this Steelers team at this point in the season just going to be finding their footing, or is this where they're going to start to fall off of their footing, kind of like what happened last year?
I think this is going to be more of a fall off than like kind of what happened last year, largely because of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the dude's 40. And I know a lot of people will look at when the Steelers signed him and go, well, his numbers weren't that bad in New York last year.
They
weren't. But the difference was when the bad happened for New York last year, it was really bad. Like when Aaron Rodgers threw a pick, it lost them a football game. When Aaron Rodgers took a sack, it took him out of scoring range. Like the bad was so loud with Aaron Rodgers last year, it kind of overshadowed the little good he did have going on in New York.
Shout out Russ.
Very similar. It was a very similar situation. It really feels like Pittsburgh went from the same team with different players. Like you go from George Pickens to DK Metcalf, kind of the same guy.
I'll still take Metcalf though, and I'll take Rodgers.
I would take DK over Pickens too, but you go from DK to Metcalf, they're very similar wide receivers. You go from Rodgers to Russ, very similar quarterbacks at this point in their career. It just feels like the same Pittsburgh Steelers team, and to me, the offense just isn't good enough to compete with a Josh Allen-led offense. The defense, I think, is going to be able to hang with them, but the Steelers right now, they don't even know if TJ Watt's going to be on the team this season. He has this contract dispute going into the training camp. They don't know if he's going to be on the team. So if TJ Watt isn't there, or if TJ Watt's playing on a contract year or whatever the case may be, who knows what that's going to look like. I think this is going to be a game where I think it's going to be close. I don't think Buffalo is going to blow out Pittsburgh, but I think it's going to be kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back for Pittsburgh in their season, while also being this kind of like statement win for Buffalo where they can go on the road against a good team. I mentioned a couple of my losses that I have for Pittsburgh or for Buffalo right now are on the road in Houston, on the road in Atlanta. Beating a Pittsburgh team on the road is going to be a very, very important win for the Buffalo Bills. So I'm going to give them a win against Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be close because of that defense that the Steelers have going on. I think it's going to be an ugly, like 20-17, just ugly football game going on. I think it's going to be one of those where Josh Allen needs a field goal to get the win, and they somehow sneak it through. So I'm going to go with the Bills. I think it's going to be very close, though.
So let me tell you why I don't like this as a Steelers fan. And the biggest reason, guys, is staring you in the face. Take a look here. First of all, we have them coming off of 2 losses. So already, I don't like it. And it could be another one if you include Kansas City, who I didn't even include in there. So there's that. Also, they play Thursday night football in Houston, and then they have the whole 10-day long break here before they play Pittsburgh. And I haven't looked at Pittsburgh's schedule per se, but unless Pittsburgh's coming off a bye right here, which I don't think they are, I think they have an early bye, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't think that Pittsburgh is coming off more than the standard 7-day Sunday to Sunday. So that said here, I think it gives a big advantage to the Buffalo Bills, especially if they're coming off 2 losses and they got to go out here and get a big time win. So that itself hurts my case here. But I do like Pittsburgh for a couple reasons here as well, at least in the sense of having a shot here. You kind of mentioned it. I think 2017, 23-20, kind of written all over this game here. Both defenses are going to look pretty good. I think both offenses are going to have their moments, but it's going to be much more chunky yards in small doses. Who can stay on the field longer? Who can drain out the other defense quicker, etc. Now, we've talked about Buffalo's defense. The one place that they've been exposing themselves is across the middle. Aaron Rodgers can make a lot of the throws that Russell Wilson threw into the dirt. Also, yes, you could say, well, the whole Russell Wilson air ball back shoulder fade. Look, if Russ and Pickens could connect on it, then Rodgers and DK can connect on it. Are we going to act like Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers ain't been doing that for 12 years? Like, come on now. So That said, I'm not worried about that. I think they can move down the field. I think defensively they can do pretty decent. I having flashbacks to that game in Buffalo during the playoffs. You know what that's like, Broncos fan. You know what it's like. Yeah. So all that said, I'm going to go bias pick, folks. I have to expose myself. It's a bias pick. I have to just throw it out there. I'm going Steelers here. However, once again, I honestly, Bryson, would pretty confidently take them as a dog if this was a 7-day rest for both teams. But the extra rest is scaring me. But I have to look at Steelers' schedule. Technically, I don't have it right in front of me, so I don't know what the situation is. But I do want to say Pittsburgh win this game. I think this is a big-time game. Got to show something. At this point, Buffalo, in our case, has been running through the AFC. They're running through all the big dogs. Steelers want to keep their name in there. Bengals are going to be better this year. You have to win these kind of football games. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh here just because I'm going off of what I think Pittsburgh can be and not what they were last year. If the Russ team, like you said, just same team, different players, if that team shows up, they're cooked. They're going to lose 31-10. But I think they can compete here. Give me the Steelers. I'm going to go 3 losses in a row for the Buffalo Bills here in this spot. Now, I just talked about this team. 7 days later, same exact time frame, right in those midday games on Fox. We got Cincinnati finally back here in Buffalo. You have been a Joe Burrow guy, a Bengal guy. You have defended this man. I have given him more shit than any other blue chip quarterback in the NFL, just in the sense of I think he's a little overrated. I just do. I think he's a great quarterback. Don't get it twisted. But I do think that he's a little bit of a stat padding merchant because his team usually sucks and his defense sucks, and he ends up slinging the ball at the end. And in the fourth quarter, he racks up all these points and all these yards. But nonetheless, he's a great quarterback. They're expecting a bounce back. Everything that could have gone wrong for the first 12 weeks last year went wrong, and they were barely a couple other scenarios from still being a playoff team. Is this a win for Cincinnati in Buffalo? Or at this point, at least according to my schedule, I need the bleeding to stop eventually. You're not still bleeding, but you're still leaking a little bit here. Yeah. Is this a win for Cincinnati?
I really want it to be a win for the Bengals because, like you said, I am about as big of a Joe Burrow fan as it gets. I think this offense for Cincinnati, again, is going to be phenomenal. I think Joe Burrow is going to be top 3 in pretty much every category next season. This wide receiver unit for Cincinnati is phenomenal. I don't know how they were able to keep Chase and T. Higgins, but they did it. Yeah. It's going to cost them Trey Hendrickson. It might cost them their first-round pick, who they still haven't signed. But
who needs defense?
Yeah, right, exactly. That's the issue. Is just this Bengals team just keeps shooting themselves in the foot because, you built up this offense that can put up 35 points on anyone, but you put together a defense that can give up 35 points against anyone. Like, you talked about your Steelers team last year. That Steelers offense at no point last year was ever an offense that people were like, yeah, we're terrified of that team. And they still put up 30 plus points. They still put up 30 points on the Bengals. Like, when you let every team you play just outpace you, when you can't give Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase a little bit of a cushion to give them any breathing room as an offense, that's how you know that defense is historically bad. And I think that's going to be the issue in this one. In Buffalo, too, on the road, it's going to be a little bit cold, but Joe Burrow's played well in cold games in his career, so I'm not worried about him playing in the cold. But I think this is going to be a classic 35-31 win for the Bills. Joe Burrow's team. Joe Burrow takes the lead late. There's 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, and that defense can't get a stop. Like, I think that's going to be what happens. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a high-flying game. But at the end of the day, that Bengals defense is just so bad that it's really hard for me to see them winning these type of games. So if it was in Cincinnati, maybe it's different. But in Buffalo, and again, I don't have them coming off a loss, but they are on a really crucial part of the schedule for the Bills where they have to take this game seriously. So I'm gonna have the Bills beating the Bengals in Buffalo.
And I think you kind of nailed it there. Like you said, it doesn't matter how good Joe Burrow plays. They're never safe. Until it says 0-0-0, they're not safe in this game. It could be one pass across the middle and a 54-yarder from Tyler Bass, and they're still going to win. Like it doesn't. I don't see how the bleeding is going to end in this game here for the Bengals defense. I mean, if anything, this is going to be Josh Allen 2 rushing touchdowns, and the wide receivers that you said none of them are stars. They're going to look like stars here in this game. It's tough here, man. And yes, I'm a Steelers fan. Yes, I want to see the Bengals lose as much as I physically can, but I know when to take them and when not to take them. And this just isn't it. You have to take the Bengals this year against teams that are at least on offense to where their defense have a chance. And they just don't in this game here. So I'm right there with you. I'm going to go with a win for the Buffalo Bills. The bleeding has stopped. Now, they have a rematch here with the New England Patriots, who I had going on the road early in the season and beating them. Now it's in New England this time. Once again, 7 days later, bright and early game here, 1:00 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. Is this a win for Drake May and the boys? Because you did not take them earlier in the year when I did.
I didn't have them early in the year beating the Bills, but I do have them winning this one. I think in New England, this is going to be that game where I mentioned earlier, in a loss, it could have been a Drake May breakout game where Drake May looks like he can compete with Josh Allen. I think this is going to be a New England Patriots breakout win. This is going to be a win where they look like, maybe if it doesn't amount to anything this season, maybe they still miss the playoffs, maybe they still fall a little bit short, but they're going to win this type of football game where it takes them into next year, where they're like, yeah, we're not afraid of Buffalo. We know with Drake May as our quarterback, we can win this football. We can beat this football team. So I think on the road in New England, I think this is going to be a game where you see a lot of maturity out of this Patriots team. These are the type of games late in season. I think you're going to see the more button up, the more mature, the more game plan ready teams that Mike Vrabel puts together show up more than they were last year with Gerard Mayo. I think these are the games where they really show out. They really compete. They win these type of football games late. Again, I don't know if it amounts to a playoff berth for New England or anything, but I think it's going to be a it's going to be a win where, like, at the end of the year, as a Patriots fan, maybe you're a little bit upset because you dropped from pick number 11 to pick number 15, but really you should be happy you win this football game because it gives your team hope for the future that Drake May can compete with Josh Allen for the division. So I'm going to give the Patriots a win. I think the Patriots sneak one by the Bills at some point this season. And I think in New England at this point of the year, after coming off a brutal stretch too, like the Bills could also just be really tired. Like we just looked at that stretch.
100%.
You look at Tampa Bay, Houston, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, 4 straight playoff caliber teams. They could just not show up against New England too. So I'm going to give the Bills a loss in New England.
I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place here because if I already took them to beat them in Buffalo, why am I not going to take them to beat them in New England? This is where I'm struggling now because I gave them 3 losses in a row. I said they're going to lose to Pittsburgh. I said they're going to lose to the Patriots early in the year. I'm simply going to default to do exactly what you did technically, and I'm going to go 1-1 here just because I do think Drake gets the best one time, and I do think Josh gets the best one time. Now, I took him early in the year because at some point to me in the first 5 weeks, the Buffalo defense is going to fold in a spot where they should not fold. And so that's why I went with that early on. Now, honestly, Bryson, depending what the line is, I'm taking New England in this game. But for the sake of the show, if they don't beat them early in the year, I will be with you, and I will be taking them to win this one here. So I'm going to go 1-1 as well. Keep it nice and simple at this point. Now, moving on through here, you just said, could they get caught lacking against a team that they should get lacking against? The Browns are one of those teams. Now, at this point, Browns fans are going to want to lose every game they can because if they think they're going to be competing, I remember last year, all y'all had them picked 3rd in the division. How'd that go? Okay, let's see if we can do that one again. But anyway, all that said here, you're on the road here. You just mentioned how tired they're going to be on the road at Houston, at Pittsburgh, home, at New England, at Cleveland. I get it. It's not that far of a travel game, but it's still a travel game here. Now, in your opinion, I think, I'm going to guess, Shedeur Sanders is the starter at this point. With my luck, he'll get cut in training camp. So what do I know? But I'm going Shedeur Sanders as the starting quarterback for the Browns at this point in the season. But outside of Shedeur Sanders, I don't see what this team has. I don't see how they beat anybody unless Myles Garrett, who I'm not a massive fan of, just absolutely murders people and makes it a 13-10 kind of game. So to me, this is easiest pick in the last 10 weeks. I'm going Buffalo here all day long, but could they get caught here?
No, I don't think so. Josh Allen could literally be asleep. Like, Josh Allen could be asleep in his bed, and the Bills could still beat this Browns team. Like, I agree with you. I think Shedeur Sanders will be the starting quarterback at this point in the season for the Browns.
Let's go.
But this team is just so bad. Like, I don't know. I am a big fan of Myles Garrett, and I don't, even him being as good as he is, can't carry this abysmal Browns defense to anything special. Jerry Jeudy had a breakout year for the Browns last year. Who knows what he's going to look like with 4 different quarterbacks this year for the Browns? Like, I think it could be a mess there as well. Like, I think Josh Allen could be asleep. He could play left-handed. They could have the backup quarterback in. None of it matters. I think the Bills are going to win this game so easily, especially because I have them losing in New England. And then the next week is against the Eagles. Like, they know they have to get a win here against Cleveland to just keep that pace for the number 1 seed alive. So I think they're gonna curb stomp the Browns. Like, this is gonna be this could be like a 41-10 win. Like, the Browns
it could, but I have this weird ass feeling that it could be if they beat Pittsburgh, New England, Cincinnati. This could be the gap looking ahead at Philadelphia. That's the only reason why I say that. It magically could happen. It should not happen, folks. I will, in my Survivor League, I will not be taking Browns money line. Let me put it that way. So I can tell you that much, but I'm right there with you. It should be a curb stomp. Like we said earlier in the year, there's going to be a couple games on the schedule that they win by hopefully 3 touchdowns plus. This kind of has it written all over it. So we'll see what happens there, but a win against the Browns. Then, like you said, the Super Bowl champs here coming to Buffalo, the last game of the 2025 season. Folks, it's not the last game of the year. Work with me here. The Eagles here, December 28th, Sunday, 4:25 p.m. Eastern time, right in that midday slot. At this point, I'm assuming Bills fighting for the top seed in the AFC, Eagles fighting for the top seed in the NFC. This, to me, is starters versus starters, not a guy sitting out in this game. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. Who gets the best of this one?
I have the Eagles winning for a few reasons. One, I know it's in Buffalo in late December, so a lot of people like to pick the Bills because of the weather part of it. The Philadelphia Eagles have no issue playing in cold weather. In fact, I think they're probably better in cold weather. Like, they're going to run the football. Saquon's going to get 50-plus touches. Jalen Hurts is going to run the football. The Philadelphia Eagles are still, like, you know how sometimes a team wins a Super Bowl and other teams poach all of the depth from that Super Bowl winning team? So, like, the Super Bowl winning team now has to kind of retool and build up that depth again. The Philadelphia Eagles are still the most talented team in football. Like, from top to bottom, I think they're the most complete team in football again this year. I don't find very many holes in that team. Maybe at corner, just because they're young. They did get rid of James Bradbury. They got rid of Darius Slay. So they're relying on a lot of youth in the cornerback room. But they did that last year, and they won a Super Bowl. And they are really good in cold weather. They're really good on the road. I think this is going to be a game where the Eagles' defense specifically is what's going to win them the football games. I don't think the Bills' defense is going to be good enough to go stop for stop with the Eagles' defense. Like, if I need to bet on a team getting a stop late in the game in this one, I'm going to bet on the Eagles. So I'm going to take them winning this one because, again, I just think they're too talented. Like, this Eagles team is just so deep in so many areas. So I'm going to have the Eagles winning this one.
As someone who is currently sitting in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Bryson, I got a bone to pick with these boys from Philly because rumor has it TJ Watt, they're trying to go all in. Can you imagine the one thing they need, if you just mentioned how deep they are, is a pass rusher on the other side? It's a wrap, bro. If they get TJ, it's a wrap. Like, back to back. Thank you very much for playing. I mean, I don't know what else they need at that point to not go on a little Chiefs back to back type of run here. Now, all of that said, I agree with you. If I have to go defense in crunch time, who do I want? I want them. If I have to go a team that I want in the cold, honestly, I kind of agree with you. I think I want Philly because between Saquon and the tush push, which didn't get banned, they tried to ban it, didn't get banned. How do you stop them? How do you stop them? And as soon as the Bills sell out, they're going to throw on them. And I think we all know the Bills are going to sell out to the pass anyway. And at that point, Saquon's going for 200, 3 touchdowns, and Jalen's going to tack on 1 or 2 himself. And this is going to be – the Bills are going to need 38 points to win this game in the cold. I just don't see it happening. So I'm right there with you. I'm going to go with the Eagles as well. Just like you said, it's not even because it's a fate of Buffalo. It's just that's how good the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be. And once again, they better not get TJ Watt, but it's on the radar, so keep an eye out, folks. Then finally, the final TBD flex game, January something. 2026, Week 18, the New York Jets, once again, this one in Buffalo. Justin Fields is coming back to town. I'm assuming at this point, the Jets have to win this game if they want a playoff berth. I don't think they're going to get one anyway, but they're going to need this game. The Bills could either have a 1 seed locked up, could need the win, whatever. Let's do this pretending both teams need the win at this point, because I don't think it's right to say, oh, half the starters are sitting. Okay, well, whatever. So, in this case, is there any threat here? Josh and the team, they win, they get the number 1 seed. Any fear?
No, I don't think so. If the Bills have any need to win this game at all, I think they're going to take this game extremely seriously. I had them beating the Jets really easily in New York early in the year. Late in the year, I think it's going to be more of the same. According to what I have heading into this one, they're 11-5 on the season, the Bills are. I think that's going to put them somewhere competing with, even if it's not competing with the number 1 seed, they're going to want the number 2 seed because they're still going to want they're going to want home field advantage for the second round. Like, they don't want to have to go to Baltimore in the divisional round. Like, that's not what they want to have happen. So I think the Bills will have the division locked up by now. But I do think, like you're saying, they're going to need this win to be somewhere in the top 2 seeds in the AFC and have home field advantage at least through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So I think they take this game seriously. Like you said, I think the starters will be playing. If that's the case, I have them beating the New York Jets.
So 12 wins.
Yep, I have them at 12-5.
So I don't want to know your winner if the answer is no. Will 12 wins get them the number 1 seed?
That's tough. I'll have to look at I have 2 other teams. You can probably guess who they are, who they will be competing with. I have not looked at their schedules fully quite yet, but my gut instinct says no.
I agree. Okay.
I think the number 1 seed is going to finish with somewhere around 13 or 14 wins.
But they are a big 3 seed.
Oh, yeah. I think the top 3 seeds in the AFC are about as locked up as it gets. Like, I don't
13, 12, 11.
Yeah. I love Houston, and I think Houston has a more than real shot to win that division again.
Ooh.
I just don't think Houston's good enough to be a top 3 seed in the AFC. I think they'll be the 4th seed again. It's going to be the 3 teams everyone knows competing for the top 3 seeds.
Chiefs, Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, folks. Come on. Anyway, hey, could be the Broncos, Bryson. We haven't done the Bronco preview yet, but I know you're gonna talk some. Look at the colors behind you. You're gonna talk some shit. I know it's coming. So
I'll talk shit about them being a playoff team. I don't know if they're gonna compete with the Chiefs for the division, but who knows? We'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, we'll get there, folks. Okay. I'm going to agree with you, though. 12 wins for me as well. This is a win here in Week 18. They will beat the Jets just straight up, like you said. They might – the thing is, like you said, even if they don't go for the 1 seed here, they're still probably going for the 2 or the 3 or the 3 or the 4. So, like, they're going to need to win the game pretty much no matter what. Unless they, at this point, are 14 and something and they're untouchable, fine, maybe. But this feels like even the backups, arguably, could win this football game, at least offensive backups. Probably not defensive backups, but offensive backups could get this game done. So 12 wins for both of us. We did not have similar stretches per se, but we still got there together. Same exact score here, 12 wins on the year in the regular season for the Buffalo Bills, a top 3 team. Not going to go out on a limb right now and say that they're going to win the conference per se, but we will have our division and conference shows as well for you guys. This is show number 2, once again, of our schedule predictions for 2025. 49ers is done. Bills is now done. Got another one coming up for you guys over the weekend. And then other than that, we're going to be doing 2 to 3 a week for you guys moving forward between now and the season starting. So make sure to tap in YouTube channel at The Sports Forum. Got it right there for you. Click that subscribe button. Our social media at Sports Forum CO, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and even there on LinkedIn as well. Until next time, Mr. Bryson Owens, Riggs Tamburo. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Drop a comment. Let us know what your guys' record prediction is going to be for the year, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.